Now let's go through an example where we produce and consume messages to one topic with both the Kafka and the Pulsar Java clients. We're going to be using a topic inside of your tenant and namespace. So I'm going to be using a topic. This is your tenant here. And we do want you to do it this way because in the next exercise, we're then going to geo-rep this data. So here's your topic or tenant namespace, and we're just going to call this shared topic. Here in my client properties shared topic file, I don't need to configure schema registry connections. I'm just going to be producing with a string type of message, and sharing topics currently works for string and byte messages only. And then I'm connecting it to my KSN endpoint using the JWT token. So if I go over to my Kafka producer here, I'm going to start by executing this. The string message is going to say published by Kafka producer. And here you can see we've produced that one message. And then I'm going to go over to my Kafka consumer and we'll go ahead and consume that message. What we should see is that on the output, it should say what the message itself was, which was published by Kafka producer. And then I'm going to print out to the screen consumed by the Kafka consumer. So it's very clear who produced and who consumed each message. And here you can see that it was published by the Kafka producer and consumed by the Kafka consumer. Next, I'm going to go over to a file, this Pulsar producer.java. This uses the Java client for Pulsar, and I need to edit my credentials URL. So this file is not going to be referencing the client.properties.shared topic file, so we need to make sure that this is fully configured for us here. I've already updated the issuer URL, audience, and service URL for you. We're going to be hitting port 6651. That's a different port than where KSN receives its messages. But what you do need to do is update this credentials URL to point to the file that you've placed in the resources folder. This is your OAuth file. And I'm going to update that since I'm using Kafka Student 3. You also need to update the topic that you're going to be producing to, and that is going to be also Kafka Student 3. So two things you need to update there for your producer code. Let's go ahead and execute that. I'm going to go ahead and do Maven compile on that. So let me close out of this consumer. So now I'm going to be producing a message using Pulsar to the exact same topic, the Kafka Student 3 GeoRep shared topic. And then we're going to try and consume that using the Kafka consumer. So here I've published a message with the Pulsar producer. Next, to go to the Kafka consumer here, and let's rerun it. And since the last time we ran it, the only message that was published to that topic was from the Pulsar producer. So let's go ahead and see if we see that message on the Kafka side, or with the Kafka consumer, the message that was published by Pulsar. And here we get the message published by Pulsar producer, consumed by Kafka consumer. Now the only combination we haven't tried is to check out the Pulsar consumer and see what it gets. Here I'm going to update the credentials URL just as I had done in the producer, as well as update the topic to say Kafka Student 3 GeoRep shared topic. And let's go ahead and start up this Pulsar consumer. And we should see that it consumes any of the messages that are currently in that topic. And here you can see we get messages published by Kafka producer, consumed by Pulsar consumer, and published by Pulsar producer, consumed by Pulsar consumer. So you can feel free to play around with this with any of the consumers and producers sharing a topic. Again, this works for string and byte messages currently. And yeah, feel free to play around with this, sharing topics between Kafka and Pulsar producers and consumers.